everybody. Today, I'm just getting settled in here. Talk about working to the very last second. So, I'm excited though to be here, and it's great to see so many familiar faces of S.I.T, past, present, and future most likely. So, I'm here today to present my capstone. It's a course-linked capstone for international education, and it's called the Freedom in Creation Global Village Education Program. So, the purpose and goals and objectives of the training today, I'm going to drop them down here too as I read them. And my remote's not going to reach up far. So these we can refer back to once this slide is gone. But essentially it's to introduce the Global Village Education Program. And it's a new program designed for the organization Freedom in Creation, which some of you know about, I know, but I'll be going into depth, so don't worry about that. The next thing is to educate people on the ongoing work that Freedom in Creation is doing, as well as to provide a historical context within Uganda to make it understandable why Freedom in Creation exists, given the situation taking place in Uganda currently and historically. And it's to raise awareness about the importance of reciprocity within service learning programs, these collaborative programs, and the importance of this mutuality, this mutual benefit and reciprocity. And then it's to promote and encourage global education through collaborative projects. Okay? So, in an IE course-linked capstone, there's a specific rubric and requirements for the capstone. And so what you see is a list of all of the requirements that I had worked on for the capstone paper itself. And here's another list. But given the length of the presentation and the focus that I want to bring with you guys today is highlighted in black on this side of the things. So while there's a staffing plan, marketing plan, and obviously in Uganda, crisis management and safety plan, those things are all done, and I'd be happy to talk with you guys about those. But for the sake of this presentation, we're going to focus on the context, how I came to choose this program design, the program rationale, the needs assessment, program description, the theoretical foundations, the curriculum, the program goals and objectives, participant goals and objectives, and then the Global Village Education curriculum. Okay? And just in case, those are all of the requirements for the course-linked capstone IE right over there, if you want to reference back to those. Okay, so given that the Global Village Education Program is based in northern Uganda, and I have to give a disclaimer, I've never been to northern Uganda, or the country of Uganda actually. So you might wonder how I came to decide on designing a program for an organization based in a country that I've never actually been. And so my practicum was working with the semester at sea study abroad program. And here's a picture of the MD Explorer. This was the floating campus for 104 days, where 650 plus students, in addition to faculty and staff and the crew, so giving a grand total of about 1,000 people, sailed on this for 105 days, circumnavigating the globe, going to 12 countries on 5 continents. So, semester at sea. Does someone want to read the mission for me, Kelsey?
To educate individuals with a global understanding necessary to address the challenges of our interdependent world.
Okay, so to educate individuals with a global understanding necessary to address the challenges of our interdependent world. And the way they did this was a combination of courses, where on the ship students would participate in coursework just like they would in their home schools. And then they combined it with lectures and then field programs. So my position was the assistant field program coordinator. So working in each country, when we docked in each country, There was an array of programs that students could choose to go on, ranging from walking tours, city tours, cooking classes, meditation classes, yoga, and then ranging also from service projects, working with Habitat for Humanity, things along those lines. And then multi-day excursions. So for example, in Brazil, we were in Manaus, and students flew to Rio for several days and participated in things there. So there was really a range of different programs, some of them more on the tourist side, some of them, you know, specifically focused for service type of projects. So here is the Spring 2000 voyage, starting in Nassau, Bahamas, going to Dominica in the Caribbean, actually going up the Amazon into Manaus in Brazil, then going to Tema and Accra in Ghana, and Takoradi as well, down to Cape Town, South Africa, Port Louis in Mauritius, Chennai in India, southern India, Singapore, Vietnam, and there's Cambodia as well, Hong Kong, Shanghai. We were supposed to go to Japan, but this was during the tsunami and earthquake, and we had to relocate to Taiwan. And then finally going over to Hawaii, Hilo, and then ending in San Diego. So this is a shot of all the students on the ship, on the back. So you can get a sense of how many students we're talking about. And this comes with a lot of questions internally that I had about what's the impact of 700 students, predominantly white students at that, embarking and letting loose in these countries that we would dock in. There were strict alcohol policies on the ship, and so essentially they were wound sprungs that once they got off, boom, and they didn't have to partake in any of the semester at sea programs, and they could just do independent travel, and some of them chose to do that. So there was really a wide range of students on here. Some very privileged, wealthy students who really didn't see didn't really connect with the impact and importance of such a program. And then there were students who really fought to get on the ship and really understood the philosophy and idea behind it and made the most of it. And then there were people in the middle, and a whole range. So this is the main student union. This is where most of the lectures took place. And as I said, there were guest lecturers that came on the ship, some for short duration, some for the whole voyage. And starting in the Bahamas, I connected with two people specifically, Andrew Briggs and Lee Gross, who were traveling guest lecturers. Andrew Briggs was this is this guy right here, he's giving a lecture. And he's the president and founder of Freedom and Creation, the organization that I'm going to get into a little bit more. But he was an alum of Semester at Sea in '99, and he was invited back as a guest lecturer now because he started and founded this organization in northern Uganda. And so over the course, given that it's on a ship and you really don't have the opportunity to leave once you're at sea, or at least it's not a good idea, had a substantial amount of time to talk with many people, Andrew included, about a lot of different things. And so coming off my academic year here at S.I.T, I had a lot of questions about international education and the purpose of it and who benefits from it and at what expense to others, and what does it mean to have students from the U.S. going to these other countries, oftentimes in marginalized communities perhaps, and just what's the impact of these and the mutual benefit. I was really looking at how are these things, how can they be mutually beneficial? And so with Andrew and this other guy Lee, I connected with a lot of, there's a lot of similarities in our views and our ideas and philosophies on not just international education, but collaborative work and reciprocity and this mutual benefit that needs to take place. So I could go into talking specifically about each port that we went into in each country that we went into, but I think one that really stuck out to me as being the most impactful would be Cape Town, South Africa, and that's for a number of reasons. One, the similarities to the U.S. are very striking in terms of its history of racism, segregation. The history of apartheid there and the civil rights movement here is very similar. Issues of systemic racism that continue, structural racism that continue today in this country. Everyone turn off your cell phones. So the structural racism that continues today here, it continues in South Africa. And this identity, the social identity based largely on the color of one's skin is very similar to what it is here in the U.S. So that struck me. Another thing was just its beauty. This is on top of Table Mountain, right in the heart of Cape Town. Absolutely gorgeous. I had the opportunity to stay with a family in a township just on the outskirts of the center of town. And through that experience, although it was very short, it was really a cool experience, and got to talk with them, and they talked candidly about their experience during apartheid and the impact that still exists today as a result. And then finally was this collaboration, this art collaboration with Freedom in Creation, with Andrew and Lee Gross, working in a school, Capricorn Primary School, for an art collaborative project, bringing artwork from South Africa to Uganda to connect the two countries in solidarity. And so I'm going to show you a quick video of that experience.
Good morning, great Lucy. Good morning, teacher. How are you today?
We're starting a collaborative art project with Freedom in Creation. So we have 14 students and also staff who are coming out to facilitate, and we'll do some art projects that are started by kids at the school that are brought to Uganda to link both groups of kids together. So I think we're going to start with 3 banners that can essentially be like stations for the different classes to come through and work on.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to paint your hands in the colors, and you're going to get to put it on the flag, okay? You guys want to do that? Do you like your music?
We've had to paint over on a piece of cloth, essentially on grass outside of the school. And I really think sometimes that's kind of the fun of it, is we have to adapt and just roll with whatever we got. What we've tried to do here is draw out the continent of Africa and the heart for our kids up in Uganda, that they'll complete Uganda, along with a heart down here in South Africa, in Cape Town, representing the Capricorn Primary School. And they take over from here, and we just provide the outline.
The interesting thing about art is it transcends language and culture and class, and it's something that can connect people without having to speak a word.
And if a lot of you want to move outside over.
They'll put their marks down to signify peace, to signify international unity.
Freedom in Creation, and this whole initiative is all about building bridges, and we're looking at building a relationship between S.I.T and Capricorn, and that is our goal.
One of the most meaningful things for me in this collaboration is that it's actually been student-led. They've come out today and they've actually organized the transportation, the relationship with the school, and it's been wonderful. It's something that has come together really nicely that I think will impart a lot of healthy perspective, introspection, and global education to communities around the world.
One of the most important aspects of semester at sea is experiential education. You're not able to get that in a classroom. Okay, so that provides a little bit of an understanding of how I came to connect with these guys in Freedom and Creation. Through this art collaboration, essentially, really got me thinking about the impact that art has on people in so many different ways. And this idea of connecting communities and cultures and people through artwork. And the therapeutic aspects, the educative aspects, and just the creative potential that comes out from the opportunity to partake in artwork. And so that sat with me. And so Andrew and Lee got off the ship in Cape Town, and then they went on to Uganda. And we sailed on the rest of the voyages I just showed you before. And so thinking about what I wanted to do with my capstone and wanting to design a program, I didn't want to do it with Semester at Sea because, one, the programs are very short. At the most, it's an 8 days in one port, as little as 1 day. So designing a program for such a short amount of time I wasn't very interested in. Also, the reality is that it probably wouldn't be implemented, given that their structure and the way that their philosophy on these field programs is working with local tour operators in each country. And so a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about in terms of my theoretical foundations and in the needs assessment just weren't going to be met by Semester at Sea. And that was one of the struggles that I had working for the organization. Ultimately, I think it was a great experience. It led me to where I am now. And I learned a lot of things that I don't want to do within the field, which is also a very important thing. So moving now to Uganda. Okay, so I just took you on a little bit of my experience working with Semester at Sea. And I want to transition now into Uganda. And this is where Freedom and Creation is based. So Uganda is here, the red country in the continent of Africa here. So it's Eastern Africa. And then within this map, the smaller map here, you can see the south and the northern regions of the country. The yellow region is where there's historically been conflict, and I'm going to focus only since the 60s, although it's not to say that the history of Uganda and Africa isn't much more complex and long, and the history before obviously impacts this more recent history, but given the time, I'm going to focus specifically moving from the 60s onward. So the yellow region, like I said, is the conflict area in Uganda. Kampala, where this arrow is the capital city. This is, in the southern region. And so Freedom and Creation is located right outside of Gulu and a village called Koro-Obili. So if I can get some volunteers, I'm going to give you a quick timeline of the history. And like I said, I don't want to oversimplify this history, but we don't have time to go very in-depth because it's rather complex. So if we can just get kind of popcorn style, people want to read these as I put them up. So Jessica, you want to start?
1962, Uganda gains independence. The Buganda king Mutesa II becomes president with Milton Obote as prime minister.
Obote, yeah. Milton Obote is prime minister.
1967, Obote imposes a new constitution which makes him president and abolishes all of Uganda's tribal kingdoms.
Okay, so the abolishment of all Uganda's tribal kingdoms, which go back for centuries.
1971, military leader Idi Amin overthrows Obote. During Amin's cruel 8-year rule, an estimated 300,000 people are killed.
So Idi Amin, The Last King of Scotland, has anyone seen that movie? I mean, you can argue in terms of the content within that, but the reality is it's about the dictator Idi Amin, who was ruthless and, like it shows, estimated 300,000 people were killed. In terms of the relations with the northern and southern parts of the country, the northern has historically been oppressed and victimized by the south, and that's just ongoing. I'm just going to read these just to speed this up a little bit. Obete returns to become president of Uganda after a military takeover in 1981. So this is his second time as president of the country. In 85, then he is disposed in a military coup and is replaced by Tito Okello. And then 86, Yoweri Museveni takes power through another military coup or overthrow with the help of the military. And he's known for bringing stability and improved human rights protection in comparison to some of these other presidents, but by no means is he, a happy-go-lucky type of guy. And he's currently still in power. So he's been president for quite some time now, over 25 years. And the last thing, and this is what we're going to focus on now, and this is what directly connects with Freedom and Creation and its mission, is in 1987 came the rise of the Lord's Resistance Army, or the LRA, led by Joseph Kony. And the goal for this rebel group was to overthrow the Ugandan government and to establish a theocratic state based on the Ten Commandments. Joseph Kony was a very messianic, is that how to say it right? Leader, and felt like he was compelled by God to lead this movement and to reestablish Akolai's traditions, the northern region traditions. But in doing so, it's been known as Africa's longest war. So from 87 until present day, essentially, this war between the rebel group LRA and the Ugandan government has been going on. And as a result, it's been called the most neglected humanitarian emergency in the world today. And so over 23 years, the LRA and the government of Uganda have been involved in this war. And in the middle have been nearly 2 million people, innocent people who have been in crossfire, but largely the LRA abducts children. Children for child soldiers, for sex slaves, and for porters. And as a result, just the instability in the region is immense. And so as a result, the government encouraged people to move into internally displaced camps, protective camps, which have been proven not to be very protective, and very inhumane living conditions. Basic human needs are not being met in these places. So freedom and creation. So what I think I'm going to do is, in the back room there's somewhat of a gallery. And freedom and creation, let me give you the mission before I send you off on there. Does someone want to read this from me?
By providing therapeutic art classes for at-risk children exhibiting their artwork internationally, FIC raises funds to provide participating communities with water and educational infrastructure. Having taken part in the process, the children are credited with bringing the water and infrastructure projects to their community.
Okay, so the essence of the organization started with this idea of art. Art used as therapy and as education, and to reintegrate former child soldiers back into their communities, to re-socialize them with youth that weren't abducted, and to begin transitioning back into some sort of normal life after a lifetime of not having a normal life, or And so art was the main foundation, using art as that tool. And then it became very quickly clear that, and apparent that, the basic human need of water access wasn't being met. Many of the villages, when the LRA came through, would damage or break or destroy the wells, these water sources. And so returning back, many of the boreholes and wells were broken or not working, and resulting in people who didn't have clean water to drink. And if you don't have clean water, you're not healthy. And if you're not healthy, then art doesn't do you any good, because you can't partake in it or enjoy it because you're not healthy. And so people in that region were dying from preventable and treatable illnesses due to lack of clean water access. And so I'm going to go a little bit further into this, but what I want to do now is for you to engage in some artwork in the back. You'll see it goes in somewhat of a chronological order, but you'll see a little bit of the conflict. You'll see a little bit of the issues of water insecurity, and then you'll see some of the artists that Freedom in Creation has, you know, some of the youth that have come through Freedom in Creation and who are FIC artists, and as well as some of their artwork. And then in addition, you'll see some blurbs about artist therapy, artist education, some water statistics, and some more information on the LRA and just the historical conflict in northern Uganda. So I'm going to put on some music. I invite you to engage in the artwork. I'll give you about 10 minutes to do that. And then when you hear the music come off, that'll be your cue to come back. And given the tight time constraints here, I ask that we be quick in getting back to our seats. Okay? So again, the main things I want you to look at inside from engaging in the artwork is really to try to connect these issues together and see what Freedom in Creation is doing in response to this conflict.